You're listening to Mind, Body, Home with your host, Sara Ann. Dee Oujiri is a distinguished Feng Shui expert and holistic real estate agent who specializes in creating harmonious spaces for those managing autoimmune diseases. Dee combines the timeless principles of Feng Shui with modern practical tips to transform homes into healing sanctuaries. With a focus on enhancing quality of life, calming the nervous system, and supporting overall well being, Dee's approach is both transformative and nurturing. My conversation with Dee is timely because so many of us, myself included, are dealing with or are in the process of healing their relationship to their bodies and their health on deep levels. Whether it's learning how to regulate the nervous system, understanding our relationship to our stressors, or dealing with chronic illness or physical pain, working with the energy of your home environment can support you on your healing journey no matter where you are in the process. I really think you're going to enjoy this one. Here's my conversation with fellow feng shui expert Dee Oujiri. Dee, thank you so much for coming on today. It's so lovely to meet other feng shui practitioners. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about a couple different things, but primarily we're going to talk about autoimmune disease.
Mhm.
Was perusing your Instagram a little bit, and I saw a lot of um, keywords. I saw inflammation. I saw nervous system dysregulation,
Yeah.
stress, right? So I love bringing on other practitioners because so many of us have like a niche that we really love to work with. And yours is really unique. And I think it will resonate a lot with the audience because I think these are all things. Not only are they buzzwords, but they're buzzwords for a reason. I think a lot of people are dealing with things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious how you found that path. Do you yourself suffer from an autoimmune disease?
I do. And the whole reason I found feng shui is because I was looking for ways to heal my own body. I have Hashimoto's. I'm not sure if I have fibromyalgia or if it's part of Hashimoto's. It's the only one undiagnosed. And I'm celiac. So for the last 20 years, I've lived with this autoimmune disease, and it got really, really bad in like 2010 to 2013. And I got severe depression. I was suicidal. And there was all these things happening, and I didn't know what was wrong because it wasn't my personality. I'm usually bubbly. I have fun. I'm very optimistic. So I was started looking for what's wrong with me. Why are these things happening? And that's when I discovered Reiki. And I discovered Reiki, did the classes, did the certifications, became a Reiki master. Then I did crystal Reiki and became a crystal Reiki master. And that led me to feng shui. And I've always had a love for the home and a love for architecture and design. So it all made sense and it resonated with me. And here I am and healing. I'm healing. I just found out this spring that I can cut my thyroid meds in half,
Wow.
and even my endocrinologist was like, "Holy cow, Dee, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something right." And it's the work I've done in my home. It's really affected me, improved my life.
Wow. So you started with the Reiki, and I think
Yep.
that's common. We all find these, different energetic modalities, right? And then the
Yeah.
next thing that excites us, we introduce it. What really led you to the environment? Like what kind of tipped you off that how your environment might be affecting your health?
I bought different books when I was depressed, and then I went back to those books and started reading them, and things just started clicking with me. And then that's when I followed the International Feng Shui Guild, and it started resonating with me. I don't even know what the true trigger was why I went after my certification, but it felt right, and I'm like, "Okay, I need to do this."
Yeah, you kept following the little breadcrumbs, like, "Oh,
Exactly.
that feels good. That sounds right. That sounds
Yeah.
interesting." Yeah, I know that feeling. Well,
Yeah.
um So for the listeners that don't know, what is Hashimoto's?
Hashimoto's disease is where your thyroid is affected and your body is attacking your thyroid. And it affects you in so many different ways. You have the inflammation, you have flare ups, fatigue, your nervous system is dysregulated. But ultimately, it's about just being so exhausted all the time. For me, that's what it was. And I had a brain fog that being a career professional for 25 years, I'm a COO for a company. It was so hard not being able to speak and think about things and just get my sentences out. And that's where I struggled the most. When that hit, I knew something was really wrong.
So I think even some of the symptoms you're mentioning without a diagnosis, I think a lot of people
I
suffer with,
did.
right? The brain fog, the overwhelm, the stress, again, the ones I mentioned before, just inflammation in the body somewhere. I just did a
Yeah.
whole series on decluttering, and I know that you are big on that too in many ways. It's hard not to be as a feng shui practitioner, but
Very
um, that is body clutter, right? Clutter in the body settles in as diseases and inflammation and stress. So what are some maybe tactical things people can do? Someone who's like, "Oh, I hear myself in this conversation." How can they start looking at their environment?
So you said a declutter. That's usually the first thing I recommend for people to do. So kind of my four-step process would be reviewing the Bhagwat map on your home and understanding what areas of your home are triggering um the trauma, triggering the nervous system. Where is the reaction happening from? And you'll be able to look at it and see it when you lay that Bhagwat map on top of your home. And then from there, you start removing things and clearing your clutter. So your body starts to relax. So getting the clutter away, getting I'm looking at my bookshelves and they're shooting at me right now. So being able to recognize that if you have a bookshelf in a certain area, what are you doing? How is it affecting you? Is the bookshelf in your bedroom and it's across from your bed and things like that? So removing some of those different things and then starting to adapt and adjust the flow. So rearranging in your home and then moving into the enhancing your home. So bringing in different pieces. I use the earth energy a lot with the autoimmune disease, and you can see it in my home. But being able to add black pillows or dark blue throws, or if you need the fire energy in your home to lift up the earth energy and then applying those different things. So that's kind of my four-step process. But the quick hits for me when I'm working with a client, and if say it's a mini session, would be ceiling fans. I know that sounds really basic 101, but when you're laying in bed and you have a ceiling fan above you, what is your body doing? And how does your body feel? There's blades up there and your body is reacting. You might not realize there's a hidden stressor, but these are the different hidden stressors in your home. The command position for your desk, for your stove, for your bed, another hidden stressor if it's not positioned right. Having the energy coming through the door, another hidden stressor. And I call them hidden stressors because a lot of people who are not really in tune with feng shui and don't have that knowledge, they don't understand their stressors on our body where very intuitive for us. We'll walk into a home and say the energy shooting in from there, or a house might have too many peaks, so you've got a lot of fire energy, or your home when you're looking down on a map and it's a triangle within a triangle within a triangle. And then you realize listening to the client that there's a lot of fire energy and chaos in that one's life. So there's a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
to it, right?
Right. I love that you touched on ceiling fans because I remember even as a young girl, we didn't have them in my personal home, but in my grandparents' home, it was very cold. The window AC units were always running and ceiling fans were always going. And I remember as a child when I would stay over there that how stressed out that made me. Like, we'd have sleepovers with cousins and stuff, and I could not sleep because the fans and I didn't even really connect that dot until you just said that. Like, and I knew that about ceiling fans, like the whole blade, like subconscious connection there. But um, yeah, I just had like a little flashback when you were talking about being a young girl sleeping in my grandmother's home, just miserable because I couldn't fall asleep. And it was
Mhm.
because that ceiling fan was above me just constantly. It just feels like it's like beating down on you,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I've
So
all
imagine the insomnia and people as simple as changing out your light fixture in your bedroom over your bed, and think of the sleep and it just being able to rest.
yeah.
It
Yeah, and so, I mean, that just proves again, like, how intuitive we are, when we don't really even know what intuition is, it's like, yeah, there's a reason why you don't like things a certain way, and I think that people can pick up on things like that just in their home, little corners or even whole rooms that they don't wanna go into or that everything goes into that they just close the door behind, right? Um, I heard you mention fire energy a lot, and it seems like maybe when we're talking and I don't know, this is sort of a question when we're talking autoimmune, do you find there tends to be an overwhelming sense of fire energy in people's
There
homes?
does. What's interesting is my house, I've got a ton of peaks and a ton of angles. Like even my office door is at an angle, my master bedroom door is at an angle. I have peaks in different areas. So I have all of this fire energy, and I didn't really understand what that was doing to me, but it was adding to the inflammation of my body because you have that active energy and you have too much of that fire energy entering your body. So being able to either water that down or ground it out with the earth energy is really critical. But in fact, my roof is getting done this spring, but it's brown right now. And I'm actually moving to a black because I want to test out the water energy to see what that does and how that changes. It's going to move
Interesting.
things forward, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's and see, that's what I mean. I love talking about the elements. Before when we were talking, that was the name of this podcast before it was Mind Body Home. Um, they're in everything, you
Yeah.
know, absolutely everything. I mean, you're picking a roof color based on the elements, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so intentional, and that's funny. I was just having a conversation with someone else about just this marrying of intentionality with feng shui and intuition, and I think as a whole, like as a evolving species, we're like bringing those 2 together, living with more intention and inviting intuition to help us make more conscious decisions, and I think feng shui does a really great job with that.
It does, it does. And you just triggered something, the intuition piece is when I've asked my clients to do that review state, the question is, what room don't you like to be in and what is your favorite room? Because intuitively, you know what's going on and there's going to be something wrong with that room, or it's going to land in the bagua in a place that you really need to start working on and figure out what that trauma is that you need to address.
Yeah. So
So,
I want to touch on a little bit on like the nervous system dysregulation. I think a lot of people are having a lot more awareness about that, what it
yeah,
means to be dysregulated. I know that for a lot of clients, even starting a decluttering project, which is the first step usually, no matter who you work with,
yep.
how do you help clients, I guess, first recognize that their system is dysregulated? And two, how do you help them sort of take the next
Right
step? 'Cause a
forward.
lot of them are like, "I don't know if I wanna do that."
Well, I have a free decluttering exercise on my Instagram account, and it is adapted towards the autoimmune disease individual. And the reason why is because your nervous system is so overreactive at this point. If you have autoimmune disease, you've got a lot of stuff going on, and your body never calms down. And when you start the whole process of decluttering, you're starting to unearth emotions. And a lot of times it's due to trauma. So an example would be a basement that is just completely overwhelming. You can't even walk through it. Subconsciously, there's things going on. But if you go down there, are you keeping everything because you grew up in lack? and you don't want to get rid of those things. So if you're going to go through that exercise of decluttering, you can't just go and do it all. You can't just go into a bedroom and moms know this. If you go into your kid's bedroom and try to declutter it, you're going to have an emotional response. So you start decluttering, you're having that emotional response. And it's really important that you're very kind to yourself and you take it slowly and walk yourself through, but also starting to journal and writing down what's triggering me so you can start to find the underlying issue to help you address the trauma and calm yourself down.
100%. You even touched on something sort of my personal experience is, my own children, they're 9 and 11. Of course, they do not keep clean and organized rooms. They're 9 and 11, right?
Right.
So, but noticed, because I have just gone through this whole nervous system regulation. I'm working with a coach now on a lot of that stuff and recognizing those triggers. And for a long time, I would go in their rooms and immediately I'd fall into dysregulation. And because my brain just could not like tolerate the mess. And
Yeah.
it started getting to the point where it was like every night at tuck-in time, I was like lecturing them on cleaning their room. And it's like, we're ready for bed. We ain't ready
Yeah.
for this kind of conversation, right? And it wasn't them. Like they're just kids who just need structure and repetition, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it brought up for me, like you said, trauma, not necessarily trauma from childhood, but just keeping an orderly room as a kid because for me, my bedroom was that. That was my safe space. That was the only place within the house I could control what was happening. And so
Yeah.
I kept a very clean room and tidy room even as a child. Um, so when they weren't, it was really just triggering my own,
Mm.
nervous system.
And a
So
lot of times the people that have the OCD, it's because they're cleaning constantly because it's about control instead of letting things flow.
mhm.
So being able to flow and have a little bit of or things a little bit out of place, it's okay.
Yes, those are
Yeah.
definitely some things I've integrated, more earthing and just really awareness, being aware of, when I'm in that state. I think that's like the first step is recognizing when you're in that state.
It is. It is. I just had that conversation with my son yesterday, and mine are 13 and 19. It doesn't get any better. I walk into my son's room and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're an adult now. Why do we have this mess? You're wondering. But being aware and recognizing that your response is the number one piece. Once you're able to identify, the doors start opening.
Yeah,
And that's what happened with my depression, right? Is I recognized it and I sought help and going with Western medicine and getting, I did try some antidepressants. It made me feel sicker. So I think that was the universe's way to guide me towards other modalities and ways to heal myself and heal my body.
love that. So I've had quite a few Reiki practitioners on the podcast in the past, but I've never had someone who has done both Feng Shui and Reiki. What can you tell us about that? How do you integrate the two?
So each of the chakras on my Bagua map, I've gone through and I've added the chakras to each hua. So when you are thinking of helpful people, that's head. So I'm going to be looking at that crown chakra. And as a feng shui practitioner, people who have migraines, that would be something that would be one of the first places we'd look at, right? So if you've got dysregulation and I'm using that key word that but if your chakra is not moving correctly in your crown, then you are going to have headaches. You aren't going to feel connected. You'll be disconnected from your intuition and things like that. So, as I'm doing the intake, I'm able to start understanding and seeing these themes on areas of the home that we will need to address. But it's all interconnected. The meridians, our chakra system, the feng shui of the home, the guas. It's
Yeah.
all it all relates.
Yeah, I did, again, that same decluttering workshop I did, I highlighted a bit of Nancy Santo-Petro's work on the
Yes,
chakra system,
I
and
love her.
it's so great. It's so great, and that's why I said during that, workshop, I was like, "This isn't even my work," but I just feel like she put it out there to share because it is just the connections made,
Yes.
like, that information can't be, like, withheld, like, you have to share that, it's so good, it's so, so good. Even for me, I noticed I picked up on a lot of, um so, like, in my last house, my wealth corner, um, was really highlighted. I had an extension of my wealth corner. So, of course, that area of life was highlighted, not in the way that I was super prosperous and money was flowing in, but there was a
Right.
lot of money mindset work that I needed to work on. And so, doing that. And then I also had a lot of like lower back and hip pain, and like really even in the glutes, right? And
Yeah.
that also relates to like our financial. It also relates to that father energy, and
Yep.
also like digging deep into some childhood and trying to resolve some things with the
Right.
relationship between me and my father. So what like for me personally, that's what stood out. And then I just started digging into that more. And then, I'll follow that with clients. And it's just amazing how all of it connects.
Mhm.
I love sharing about it. So
And I love the fact that we can help people. Doesn't it feel good when somebody's like an aha happens
yeah.
and they have all of these amazing outcomes and feng shui works. Had one client that emailed me one day and she's like, we both got promotions. My husband got a 20% raise. That stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's the simple changes.
And
That's
I do notice too, like just the awareness sometimes is enough.
yeah.
Sometimes you need to implement the remedy or the fix or whatever, and things start shifting for people already.
And you made a point about your wealth corner, and it was an extension. Our homes choose us, and we choose our homes on purpose because the universe and we intuitively know the areas that we need to work on. So it's that's I think an interesting aspect because I do real estate as well. And
Mhm.
being able to work with clients and going through the buying process and the homes they're attracted to, you know what they need to work on inside because it's so apparent. But that goes back to we're trained, we are using our intuition, and we see things a little differently.
Right, and feel them.
Yes.
Definitely
Oh,
more
absolutely.
feeling. Um, I wanted to go back to one thing on the elements. Um, you were talking again about anyone who has inflammation, there probably has a lot of fire energy, and so you mentioned either earth or water. What are some maybe, I don't know, maybe some tips for someone that are kind of tactical and high
Yeah.
level to
Yeah.
introduce the earth or maybe water, and how to maybe which one do you pick?
Um, uh, well, again, it goes back to personalizing it to the individual's illness and symptoms and home. But I tend to lean towards earth first. And one of my first things I'm going to do is bring in a beautiful square rug and put it under the bed. Either I don't care if you have carpet, but I want that extra rug to go in and just so you feel really supported in starting in that bedroom. So looking at that rug and then moving to the headboard. What kind of headboard do you have? Is it wood? Is it upholstered? Is it metal? You're going to have metal. You're going to be conducting that energy and you're going to be getting those headaches. You're not going to be sleeping very well. Looking under the bed. And this doesn't pertain to my kids, right? But how full is the under the bed? It can't be a storage area for your winter sweaters and things like that because you're just not going to sleep, especially if it's one of your symptoms is insomnia. You're not going to be able to sleep if your bed is full of stuff. So I start in the bedroom for my quick fixes, and you'll see that on my Instagram too, is I tend to talk about the bedroom a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's the most intimate space, it's the most vulnerable space.
Yeah.
It's where, rest is so important, right? We're in our bedroom or our beds. What? I don't even know.
3%, I believe, is the
Wow.
number
Wow.
for being in the
Yeah.
bedroom.
Yeah, that's a great place for earth energy too.
Yep.
Bedroom.
So I talked about being a crystal Reiki master, but being able to identify some of those crystals that are going to help ground you into that space. My favorite crystal would be amethyst, and having that amethyst energy next to your bed. I consider amethyst kind of the grandmother, very nurturing and very loving. So an amethyst crystal, a nice big one, kind of statement piece on your nightstand, that's going to kind of help you relax and sleep better. And also that healing energy coming off of the amethyst. So throwing that out there, I love amethyst, and I actually have the bigger pieces in 3 or 4 locations throughout my home because it's the grandma, it's hugging me and loving me.
I love that. I love amethyst as well. It's kind of my, my gateway crystal drug. Was amethyst. Um, I've never heard it reference the grandmother crystal though. I love that, and that I could see why. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it's just a nice grounding crystal.
yeah. Um, I also saw on your Instagram, you posted something about letting your house breathe,
Oh, yes.
opening the windows, and that was so timely for me, and because it was actually just yesterday, I was so unsettled. I mean, this pending move has got me a little, I don't know what to do with myself because it's like
Yeah,
I can really move forward, but I can't really do anything else. Um, and I tried to sit down and do emails. I tried to like work on some work. Like nothing, I could not, and I didn't know what to do. I should have went for like a run or a bike ride or something, but probably the more easier thing to do would have been to maybe
open up
open
the
the
windows.
windows and let some fresh air, and, like, that's something I would typically kind of know to do, but it didn't register yesterday until I saw your post, so thank you.
You're welcome. I had several people say that too.
Yeah, it's so important, especially in the winter or the dead, heat of summer. I'm in Texas, so it's already, like, 100 degrees here, but, um, yeah, you don't think about opening your windows in those climates.
You don't, and that's what, I think that's a problem too, and I live in Minnesota, so I have days it's below 0. If it's 20 below 0, no, I'm not gonna open my windows, but midday, maybe when it's getting around 0, I'm gonna open a few things up just to let some of that energy in, and so I'm refreshing the chi, and as we know, the chi is what's helping your body heal and stay healthy, so just having that energy flow through. For you in Texas, is that early, early morning or is that late at night where you can just open a few things up to just let some of that energy start flowing through? And
Yeah.
if you're limited, I would get your bedroom. Get your bedroom of all the rooms because you need that fresh energy in your bedroom. But I also love sleeping with my windows open.
I do too. I do too. My husband couldn't stand it. Like now it's just too hot where we live, but in Pennsylvania, that's like my favorite.
Yeah.
And I remember that too. I remember as a child, the crickets would be cricketing and the
Frogs and
frogs, yeah, and the window the drapery is just like blowing, like oh, that's my favorite. Yeah,
in spring, having the smell of lilacs come in. And that's all those things that are actually helping ground you. You're hearing the sounds of nature, you're smelling nature, and those help ground you.
yeah, you're kind of integrating all of the senses uh
You're
physically and energetically, I guess, too.
and
Love that.
I'm studying, I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm starting to study biophilic design. So starting to add that to what I'm doing, and I naturally do that, but being able to work with Maureen and learn more about it, it's incredible.
Yeah,
It's
a lot
just
of
incredible.
I've read a lot of things on that, and it all makes sense, you know? I was one of those that would say I couldn't keep a plant alive until I realized what I was saying because our plants now I talk about plants as, like, ways to caretake for ourselves,
Yeah,
right? They're acts of self-care, like, am I being nourished? Am I being watered? Am I getting enough light, right? But plants might, I mean, even for what we're talking about here with, autoimmune disease, I can see that being really a helpful integration too, like just
yeah.
nourishment, you know?
It is, and it again, it grounds you. It brings you closer to the earth, even though the plants are the wood energy, it's still bringing you closer to that earth energy. And I don't think enough people go outside and ground. I know growing up, I came from small town Iowa, and I don't remember wearing shoes. I have so many scars on my feet because I would cut my feet on stuff all the time, but I would be outside barefoot all the time. And I was so much more grounded. And the other thing is I was a lot more intuitive. I was tapped into those abilities. So yeah, getting outside, grounding is really key.
Yeah, and again, back to that intuitive part, my kids, they're always just running outside barefoot. Like they
Mhm.
know, like, well, they don't know, they don't consciously know, but they
You know?
instinctively know that they
Yeah.
need some grounding. And my husband and I always kind of not so much because I made him watch the earthing documentary, and now he's a fan, and he wants earthing mats everywhere. But he would always yell at them, like not yell at them, but he would, "Get some shoes on your feet," right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "Let them go, like, they're fine." But, my daughter, she actually just the other day, she got 2 splinters, so he was like, "See, it's why you wear shoes outside." But it's always a little battle between the 2 of us, it's funny.
Leather, have them wear a leather soled shoe instead of
Okay.
rubber. Where the rubber is essentially it what do we use rubber for? Is stopping energy.
Yeah.
So use leather instead of rubber because the leather will allow the energy to flow through.
Okay. Awesome. I didn't know that. Great.
I read that a couple of years ago and I'm like, oh, that makes total sense.
Mhm. It
And
does.
it also relates back to when did we, from a society perspective, start disconnecting from our intuition and from nature? Is around the time all of those rubber soled shoes started coming about. So
So
yeah, rubber totally, all the tennis shoes our kids wear,
huh,
it's disconnecting them.
I love it. And I did see in that, just looking at some of the earthing products, they are coming out with shoes now, flip-flops and tennis shoes. They're all in trial. I keep getting emails like 2 free shoes with a purchase. Like they just must want to get them out there for people to try so that they can get some feedback. But yeah, I can see things evolving
Mm,
because grounding and earthing, like it's a real thing.
it is a real thing. And I'm glad that we're starting to come back to it.
Yeah, even when I, primarily was doing interior design, um, I was a real stickler for clients putting real wood floors in their home. All this laminate, waterproof, "Oh, but it's waterproof." I don't care if it's waterproof, like, it's plastic under your feet.
Right.
Like, if
Right.
you're walking around like that, like, you need to lay the groundwork for your home, like, this is the
Yes.
foundation, right? The foundation is that earth element.
Yeah. And
Wood
it's
still.
no, well, it's but it relates back, right? Because you can actually see the grains in it. It goes back to biophilic design too. I just had class this week and we were talking about being able to see the wood grain and those natural elements and it being real really does help bring in nature into your home. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. I have wood floors. I have 2 big dogs. One's 150, one's 100. And my floors are very scraped up, but I love having that wood underneath my feet
Absolutely. Me
because
too.
I'm barefoot all the time.
Yes, me too. Me too. I know. This house here, we have wood, but we do have carpet for the first time. I haven't had carpet in years. Um, I'm getting used to it, but it's very synthetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Dee, thank you so much for coming on. I want to give you opportunity to let our listeners know how to find out more about you. And if you have anything coming up that you want to share, please take the opportunity to do so.
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram and it's at d.ojiri and Oujiri. It's not an easy name to remember. I'm actually writing a book, Autoimmune Disease Feng Shui. And that Nancy's book is the catalyst for that because I felt like I want to create a book that is for just the common person. You don't need to be a feng shui expert to be able to get the information you need. So that's in the works. And you can get 10% off with mentioning Mind Body Home. anything in my store, on Stan's store, on my Instagram account, you can have 10% off. The consultations, mini consultations. I've got a course in there for Feng Shui 101, the foundation. I'm also working on a bedroom course, so you'll be able to get 10% off that too. It's very fluid. Just drop me a DM, let me know that you listen to Mind Body Home, and you can have it.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited for your book. I will definitely
I
be
can't wait.
checking that out. Yeah. Good for you. Thank you, Dee. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or know someone that would benefit from hearing this conversation, please share. The best way to share with me is by writing a review of the show and, of course, sending the link to someone else in need. You can connect with me on social at Jade Scott Design or with Dee on Instagram at d.ojuri, where she offers tips to bring positive energy into your life and home. As mentioned, Dee has a few comprehensive offerings, including consultations, guides, and courses. These can all be found at her website, stan.store/Diojuri. The link is in the show notes. Contact Dee directly to get 10% off any of her offerings by mentioning the Mind Body Home podcast. Finally, if you listened to last week's episode, I announced that I am moving again, this time to Tampa, Florida. Very excited about it. I also announced that I would be having a summer sale in the shop to help lessen my load, if you will, in preparation for the next move. So if there's anything you've been eyeing up, now is your time. You can get 40% off your entire order and free shipping. There's no limit on how much you can order. It's just while supplies last. I really do appreciate your support of both the podcast and of the shop. Next week, we'll have another guest spotlight, so please be sure you are subscribed. Until then, I'm sending you so much love and gratitude.